We had some fantastic games in week 1 of the 2025 NFL season. As far as our picks went, we did pretty decently, went 10-6, both straight up and against the spread. Going to be predicting every week 2 game, just like we did last week for week 1. So let's just go ahead and dive right into these matchups. Starting with the Thursday night football matchup between the Green Bay Packers and the Washington Commanders. I think that this potentially has the chance to be the game of the week on Thursday night. I do think that the Packers looked really good in their opener against the Lions. The defense was really effective, stopping Jared Goff in that rushing attack. The Commanders cruised to a victory week 1 against the Giants. They definitely were a less, dominant opponent, but overall this has the makings of being a fantastic game. Jaden Daniels versus this defense, Micah Parsons, Rashawn Gary, some of the talent on that defensive line. Thought the linebackers, Walker and Edgerrin Cooper, looks good for the Packers last week. I do think offensively, Jordan Love pushed the ball down the field. They got Matthew Golden involved, but also guys like Tucker Kraft, Romeo Doubs got involved. Love is an erratic player, and you would like to continue to see some of that consistency honed in, but I do really like the Packers. Jaden Daniels is obviously going to give this Commanders team a chance. They are a talented team, but I think that the Packers just looked really dominant week 1 against a fantastic team. I do like the Packers to win this one 28-23. That is enough for Green Bay to cover that 3.5 point spread as well. The next matchup we have is the Cincinnati Bengals hosting the Jacksonville Jaguars. And this should be an interesting one. The Jaguars beat the Panthers pretty good, even though they did have that weather delay in the game. Brian Thomas, Travis Hunter, Trevor Lawrence kind of developing that chemistry on the offensive side of the ball. Travis Etienne as well looked pretty efficient in his touches, had some good yardage on the ground there. The Bengals did squeak out a win over the Browns. They have had just ridiculous week 1 woes. They only had 7 second half yards in that game against the Browns, but still found a way to win. Came up with a couple of crucial turnovers. That defense looked a little bit better. The Browns did move the ball, but ultimately the Bengals only surrendered 16 points. The offense will get things together. They do every single year. Not going to bet against Joe Burrow. Ultimately, I think they're the more talented team, and, they did start fast for them, even though starting fast for them is winning against one of the worst teams in football by a single point. That's better than what they've done in the past. I think they continue to roll here, winning this one 26-20 in their home opener and covering that 3.5 point spread. Next, we have the Cowboys and the Giants. The Cowboys definitely put up more of a fight than a lot of people thought they would on Thursday Night Football against the Eagles. Kind of coming off a mini bye here as well. They're at home. The Giants definitely did not look good in week 1, playing the Commanders. The offense just really could not muster much of anything at all. The running game didn't get going. Malik Neighbors already looked frustrated. Defensively, I still think they're kind of trying to figure out how to use Abdul Carter, how to most effectively use this defensive line. I think the Cowboys deserve some credit for how they played. They were able to run the ball a little bit more efficiently than I thought they would. If they can continue to do that, that could be huge for them on this season. But Dak Prescott looked really, really good. I do think they win this game and cover that 5.5 point spread. I have the score here 21-13. Cowboys take that one. Next, we have the Detroit Lions and the Chicago Bears. The Lions got dismantled by the Packers. They just did not look quite right. And I do think that it is going to be on them to prove that it's not, losing Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn, that doesn't completely derail this team. I trust the Lions to get things back on track, but offensively, they definitely did not look good. The Bears, kind of the opposite. Ben Johnson making his return to Detroit here. In week 1, they started quick. Caleb Williams looked good. He was making plays on the move. They were up 17-6 going into the fourth quarter, and then just things completely fell apart. Gave up multiple touchdowns to J.J. McCarthy in his first start and ended up ultimately losing the game. I think the Bears need to prove that they can go into a hostile environment against a really good roster, keep things close at the very least. And I think they do that. Ben Johnson's very familiar with, what the Lions want to be running, what their philosophy is, but vice versa as well. This is an interdivision matchup. Coaching staffs kind of turned over for each team a little bit, so this will be a really, really interesting one. I do ultimately think this is a pretty close game. I don't think Detroit covers that 5.5 point spread, but I do have them winning. Have this a little bit of a lower scoring 24-21 game. Next, we have the Rams and the Titans. The Rams looked pretty good in week 1. Stafford didn't really skip a beat, coming back from all of his concerns over his back. Obviously, the long-term outlook of that is still a little bit questionable, but you've got Puka Nacua, you've got Devontae Adams. This defense played pretty well as well. For the Titans, I think Cam Ward really did look pretty good in his debut, but there is, I think, kind of a clear lack of talent on this roster, and they weren't able to get much going offensively. I think the Rams, are too talented of a team. They're too well coached. I have them winning this one 27-17, covering that 5.5-point spread and winning this one. Next game, we have the New England Patriots and the Miami Dolphins. Dolphins are at home, but surprisingly are the favorites in this game, at least to me. The Dolphins looked horrible, got absolutely just destroyed by the Colts in week one. Daniel Jones, the starting quarterback for the Colts, just as a reminder there. Tua looked really bad. He was turning the ball over. He was not, getting the ball out on time. I do not think that they looked good offensively. And I think that the culture and kind of where the Dolphins are at right now is not great. I do really believe in the Patriots as well. That was a tough, game against the Raiders. The Raiders ultimately kind of pulled away in that fourth quarter, but the Patriots were close, and I thought May looked good for the majority of that game. I think that Kayshon Boutte, Stephon Diggs, they're going to get these weapons going a little bit in the defense. Hopefully you're able to get Christian Gonzalez back, and that would be huge for them. I think the Patriots win this one pretty handedly, 27-14. I think the Patriots, as underdogs, go into Miami and definitely have a nice decisive victory over the divisional opponents there. Next up, we have the 49ers and the Saints. The Saints did keep things interesting for the Cardinals, but ultimately definitely looked outmatched. Offensively, they really were not able to get too much going. 49ers, this is going to be heavily dependent on whether Brock Purdy is healthy enough to go. George Kittle is going to be out. They are just still ravaged by injuries, continuing on from last year. Christian McCaffrey's still here. Hopefully Purdy is going to be good to go. That may ultimately affect kind of where things land on this game. But for now, assuming Purdy plays, I think they win this one. Maybe he's not 100%. Maybe they don't, win this one in dominant fashion like I think they could if everyone was healthy on these rosters. But I have the 49ers going into New Orleans, winning this game 20-14. Next, we have the Bills and the Jets. The Bills obviously coming off that miraculous comeback victory against the Ravens on Sunday Night Football. The Jets definitely put up way more of a fight against the Steelers than I thought they would. And offensively, Justin Fields, Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson, they were kind of cooking offensively a little bit. Defensively, that's another story. You let 40-year-old Aaron Rodgers throw 4 touchdowns on you, and Brandon Stevens, the safeties, they did not look good. I think the defensive front looked pretty good. Sauce looked good, but there are just so many holes on this defense. The offensive line for the Jets, though, really, really exciting to look at. So I think this will be a little bit more of a high-scoring game. I do think the Bills win this one, though, pretty handedly. They're 6.5-point favorites. I think they win this one 33-20. Just way too much offensive firepower with Josh Allen on that Bills team. The Bills' defense didn't look great. The Jets' offense looked pretty good. It's up to the Jets to kind of prove they can stretch that out over more than one game, but I think this could be a little bit of a fun, underrated, high-scoring affair. On the opposite side of the spectrum, though, we have the Seahawks and the Steelers. The Steelers' offense did get going really well against the Jets' defense. Their defense didn't look super good against the Jets, but ultimately, this is still a defensive-focused team. The Seahawks are very much that with Mike McDonald at the helm. I think they're both very talented defenses. I expect this to be a bit of a low-scoring game, a close game. Both of these teams want to run the football, not put too much on the quarterback's plate. Ultimately, though, the Seahawks offensive line really scares me against this defensive front. I think TJ Watt, Cam Hayward, this defensive line will feast, and Sam Darnold doesn't deal well with pressure. So ultimately, I do have the Steelers winning this one 20-17. Like I said, a close one, but I do have the Steelers covering that 2.5-point spread. Next up, we have the Ravens and the Browns. Both of these teams kind of losing in historic fashions. The Ravens obviously had the big lead, blew it at the end to the Bills. The Browns just had missed kicks, drops on fourth down. They outgained the Bengals by hundreds of yards, only allowed 7 yards in the second half, and still found a way to lose the game. The Browns offense just has absolutely no juice. Thought Harold Fannin looked kind of decent, but ultimately, this Browns offense is not good. And this Ravens defense is pretty good, even though Buffalo exposed them. And this Ravens offense is fantastic. I expect the Ravens to feast in this game. They're going to be mad, thinking that they should have won that last game. I have them winning this one by 20 points, 34-14. Have this as a blowout victory for Baltimore and covering that very wide 12.5-point spread, but ultimately, it's in Baltimore. I think the Ravens are going to be coming out looking for blood and ultimately win this game pretty handedly. Next up, the Broncos and the Colts. The Broncos won their first game with good defense, much like they did a lot of last season. Bo Nix was kind of up and down throughout his game against the Titans defense. The Colts absolutely cooked the Dolphins, very well schemed up by Shane Steichen in this offense. We'll see if they can continue to do that. I think these are some interesting play callers in Sean Payton as well as Shane Steichen. I think this could be a very fun game, a defensive battle between Anarumo and this Vance Joseph-led defense. Ultimately, though, I think the Broncos are the more talented team. I do have them winning this one 27-21, covering that 2.5-point spread and winning this game that I think could be a really underrated, interesting game this week. Next, we have the Cardinals and the Panthers. I've been high on the Cardinals this whole offseason. They were a team that I had projected to make the playoffs. They didn't really do anything to dissuade me from that, but ultimately, I don't think that they pulled away dominantly against the Saints like I kind of hoped they would. I do think that Carolina could keep this game close. I know the Panthers and Bryce Young did not look great in week one, but I think they ultimately will come back. Yeah, as Young develops that chemistry with Ted McMillan and this offense as a whole kind of continues to gel together. I don't think this Panthers defense is very good. I think the Cardinals will be able to score some points, and that's going to be big for them. This defense looked really good with Will Johnson, this young secondary, the revamped pieces on the defensive line. Thought they did a pretty good job against the Saints. So I do think the Cardinals win this game, but the Panthers keep it a little bit closer. I do have the Cardinals winning this one 27-24, but Carolina, not allowing the Cardinals to cover that 6.5-point spread. Next, the Super Bowl rematch from last season, the Chiefs and the Eagles. This game is in Arrowhead. The Chiefs coming off that loss in Brazil. The Eagles playing on Thursday night, so both these teams had an extra day or two of rest. I think this is going to be really, really crucial for the Chiefs. They lost week one in Brazil to the Chargers. Could they go 0-2? I mean, if so, that puts them in a really interesting situation that, they haven't really been in the hole like that with Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid at the helm here. So it'd be very interesting to see kind of the desperation that the Chiefs play with. The Eagles, I think, did look good, but I don't think they looked perfect. I mean, they let the Cowboys run over them a little bit in the running game. Jalen Carter is going to be back in this game, assuming he doesn't get suspended or anything. So, I think that could be big. This Chiefs defense needs to kind of get things together a little bit. They let Herbert and this Chargers and Greg Roman-led offense do kind of whatever they wanted against them. So they really need to lock in defensively. But I do think the Chiefs prevent themselves from going 0-2. I just don't see them falling into that 0-2 hole. I have them winning this game 28-23 in the Super Bowl rematch. They're at home. They're going to be playing, with a chip on their shoulder. So I think the Chiefs win this one, but it would be very interesting to see how they respond to going 0-2. Next, we have the Falcons and the Vikings. I think this is actually a really underrated matchup. I thought the Falcons played pretty well. Penix led a drive that could have sent the game to overtime if Younghoe Koo had made his kick. He's got to make that kick. I think the Falcons offensively looked pretty decent. I think Penix looked like he is a guy that you could build a franchise around. And this defense had some splash plays, though it's still, I think, got some issues for sure. The Vikings, coming off a great comeback win on Monday Night Football. It's a little bit of a short week, so, you have to take that into account as well. I actually do like the Falcons upsetting the Vikings in this game. Minnesota's 4.5-point favorites. I just think that, the Vikings are riding the high of coming off that big win in week one with their new rookie quarterback. Falcons have a little bit of film on him now, kind of can know what the Vikings like to do offensively. You have A.J. Terrell, who's one of the better corners in the league. He can at least help slow down Justin Jefferson. I think the Falcons match up decently against this Vikings team, and I could see them squeaking up an upset victory here. 23-21, have the Falcons winning this one. Next, the Texans and the Buccaneers on Sunday Night Football. These are both really fun teams to watch. C.J. Stroud leading this Texans offense. The offensive line didn't look great, kind of like it was expected. The defense was pretty good, though, and I ultimately think that they are going to make it really tough for Baker and this offense, who did look pretty disjointed at times. Ultimately, they did enough to get the win. Emeka Egbuka came up with some huge plays for this team, but I think the Texans do win this one 21-17. I just don't see D'Amico Ryans in this talented defense, giving Baker a lot of space and confusing him a little bit. And I think that ultimately they do enough to win this one and get back to 500. And then on Monday Night Football, really interesting matchup, Raiders versus the Chargers. And I have an upset in this one. The Chargers, 3.5-point favorites. I have the Raiders at home beating the Chargers. I think that, having them at home, being able to run the football with Ashton Genty, He wasn't amazing in week 1, but I think they're really going to try to unleash him in this game. This Chargers defense, I do think, has some holes as far as run defense goes. Don't think the Chiefs ran the ball very efficiently against them, but I don't think the Chiefs have a great running game either, to be honest. I think the Raiders will want to attack there. I think that Trey Pipkins is going to have a very tough time with Max Crosby. I think the Raiders do match up pretty well against this Chargers team, and even though the Chargers looked fantastic in week 1, maybe coming off a little bit of a high, going to Brazil, beating the defending, AFC champions in that game, maybe they have a little bit of a letdown game and the Raiders win a tight divisional AFC West matchup, which would put the Raiders at the top of the division with the Broncos at 2-0. So that's going to do it for my week 2 predictions. Let me know in the comments down below what you agree with, what you don't agree with. Give me your score predictions. We're going to be coming out with more of the score predictions, player analysis video, tons of NFL draft content. So if you like this kind of stuff, please hit the like button. While you're down there, hit the subscribe button as well. You won't want to miss it. Thank you so much for watching. I will catch you in the next one.